Right, I got some steel flat bar. It's 20 millimeters by 5 millimeters, and well, it was 2 bar. Well, it's 1 bar, 1 meter, but I had them cut it in half, and I've already cut a piece off. And basically, I have to cut off a thickness depending on how many magnets I have in my concentric. And obviously, if I need to fill a gap of 3 millimeters, then I'll cut a 3 millimeter strip. But if I need to fill a gap of 6 millimeters, I'll cut a 6 millimeter strip off the bar. Oh dear, hang on a minute. It looks a bit messy on here. Oh. Right, okay, that's a bit better. I don't want to film any distractions. Now, the piece of metal I cut, I've sandwiched it. It's just a test piece. It's actually, it'd be about equivalent to 2 magnet widths. And I've got 2 magnets on one end and 1 magnet on the other. These magnets are 20 millimeters by 5 millimeters by 3 millimeters thick. And these are the ones I'm using for the new concentric. So, basically, let's see, put this in a slot. Now, once I've got, it's going to fall out because it's not fixed in, but once I've got the cores in the middle, the magnets will couple, let's get it lined up, with the iron core that goes in that slot, you know, the one that's adjacent to the top of the magnet there, that slot. It will couple directly through about, be about a millimeter, maybe less, gap. Basically an air gap, but it's very tiny, which is actually filled with resin. So it'll couple with the cores, which will run through the bobbins, through the centre of the bobbins. Now, the outside concentric will be mounted actually on the other side, because I use this flat side. There's a ball bearing goes on here. The reason I didn't use, I was going to use the other side, but the reason why I'm not using this side is because it's recessed, and I realised that I was going to have to put an extender on to make the ball bearing stand out. So I thought, well, might as well just use the other side. So I've got a little dimple there. The ball bearing's going to go in there. Then there's going to be outside actuators, and the outside actuators will actually run around in a C shape. But there'll be a core that runs through where the iron is right now. Well, because you see, the iron is basically acting as a spacer, just so I can see how this all sits. I'll try and show you what I mean. Okay, right. Right, this is a new bobbin, right? This is a new multi-core bobbin. As you can see, it's got centre core slots for the actual cores in the middle, and it's got outside cores which will run across and outside the copper lining, which goes on the bobbin. Now, when I mount this, let's see if I can do this without everything falling to pieces. Right, so I'm going to have trouble holding this actually. Let me just get this lined up a bit. Right, I'll put some blue tack on here for now because this slot's going to slide around. So the blue tack, I'll just take the magnet slot out. The blue tack's going to help me to line this up and keep it positioned while I show you what goes on. So if I get this on top, hang on a minute. Oh, I've got the blue tack right opposite the slot. That's no good. Must be in the middle. Oops, come off. Right, get that in the right place. It wants to be in between the slots. Sorry, it's difficult to film and do this at the same time. Right, so if I get these lined up, I've got to get this so that the gaps are actually even all the way around. Right. It's a bit. That's a good thing about blue tack. You can move things around. It's just really to demonstrate. Now the cores. If I look through the bobbin at the monitor, you'll see. Oh, it's not quite lined up actually. That. What it is, it's just the camera's not seeing the light properly. If I hold it against the tissue paper, we can see light through all of the cores in the bobbin and the concentric magnet holder. We can see the light. I have to move the camera, otherwise it doesn't show it up properly. But the actual laminations go through these middle core slots on the magnet holder all the way through the bobbin and out the other side. As we can see, we'll see light through there. There we go. Yeah, I've got double-sided tape on this side actually. This is what the white stuff is, because I'm going to stick this in to make a new mould, and I need it to stick to the bottom so I don't get silicone overspilling over the bottom of the bobbin. Now I'll explain that bit. Now what we're going to be doing is we're going to have laminations on the inside and on the outside. So what will happen is, when I get the laminations cut for the outside, which I haven't ordered yet anyway, basically the laminations will thread through. I'll just use this screwdriver as an example. Will thread through all the way and outside, around the outside of the windings. I'm just using the screwdriver to show what I mean. And this particular, these laminations will be actuated. So the steel will come up through the end there. And what will happen is we have a C-shaped metal going around which will actuate these cores individually, push-pull, south-north, north-south, and they'll be coupled in one-to-one steel bar. Now, obviously this magnet, this particular magnet assembly at the moment, if you look, there's no room for the core to go through. Well, that's fine, because as I said, this is a test piece. And I wanted to see how about lining it up. Now, as you can see, looking at that one there, the actual core on the bobbin down here, the light shining through it, you can see it is about 2 magnets in. So, because I put this spacer in because these magnets would fly out all over the place, I needed a piece of iron to hold them together. That's why I made this test piece. So as we can see, the actual laminations of the outside will be about in the middle, roughly, of this piece of iron, mild steel. And so we have to have the spacers, possibly spacers, or we might not need them actually, because my new laminations have actually got like a half circle, a half sphere shape. So you might actually not need them at all, because I think I actually set them at about, on my drawing, my diagram, I think I set them about, was it 10 millimeters or something? So I'll probably have to file them down actually to fit between the magnets for the outside concentric and the inside concentric or something. So I'll probably end up having to file the laminations, but these iron cores are useful. I got the steel bar. It was only a fiver, like it wasn't very expensive, and because it'll still come in handy for doing magnetic. When I want to save on magnets and not use so many magnets as well. Because the idea is we need to get the magnetic fields as wide as possible. I want the south coming or the north, whichever one it is. I want that field to be coming out this end, and I want to pull the opposite field as far out as possible. So the iron will be useful in doing that, because it will pull the field through and I'll have a much wider field. The important thing is to have that field wider so that the bobbins and the coils can feel both north and south, say north in the middle inside the core, and south on the outside, so we have a much better focus of the magnetic field. And the magnetic field has got to be quite wide and not too close together, otherwise it will just collapse in on itself, as you know. If you're using a tiny little magnet, the magnetic field will go in a very sharp curve. and you'll have very, very narrow. I'm just using a screwdriver, but because I'm using these, because I'm going to be spreading the magnets out, the field will be much wider, and we'll have a much larger arc. That's what I want, a much bigger arc of the field, so that we actually are able to switch that field around the coil to generate the energy that we require. Okay? Okay, right, well, I think you've got the gist of it. As I say, if I was to take that iron out off there, these magnets would just, I wouldn't be able to get the magnet on one end and the magnets at this end to sit properly. They'd be jumping around all over the place. I've already tried it. But a piece of iron in the middle, it's just perfect. It holds it all together. And I haven't actually tested this on my magnetic gauge yet. I'll get the ball bearing thingy. See if I've got this the right way. Oops, wrong way around. This will be south on this side. So that's south on that side. See for the ball bearing. Now, in theory, as I move this over there, that should not actually. Oh, it actually jumps about. Let's see how far it went. Let's see. I think I've got it jammed a bit. See how far we can go before it actually jumps across. You can see as we just start to go. Oh yeah, it just gets across the midpoint of that magnet and it jumps across. So obviously, if there's two magnets, let's swap these around actually. I'm going to put the two magnets on this side. I'm going to move one of these magnets across. If I can do this while I'm filming it. This is difficult. Hang on, I'm trying to do this with one. I'm trying to do this with one hand. I'm going to move the other magnet to the other side. Now I should get a better switch effect now. If I get this so it's now as I move this over, we should have a little bit. It shouldn't jump so quickly. Oh, it's actually, yeah. Oh, it did actually. Oh, of course, it's getting too near this side. That's why. But anyway, the field generally in the middle should be more neutral. Let's see. Just test this with a screwdriver. Yeah, I'm feeling much more force on the top now. It's very strong there. It's like a blotch wall here. Kind of blotch wall here. I'm not feeling much attraction here. That's exactly what the effect I want. It's not very strong there, but when I get to the end, you can see the screwdriver just jumps. So this is the kind of focusing I need. So you can see it keeps jumping to the ends, and it's hard to get in. Once it's in the middle, it just jumps across to one end or the other. So that is working. The idea is to have a piece of iron there, to have a little separator in the construction, so that I can focus I don't want to crack these magnets, obviously. Now I'll put this back in the thing if I can. It's a bit of a tight, nice snug fit that. Really lucky to get that piece of metal exactly right. I did measure it though, 5mm. It's actually 5mm that way as well as wide. So, but you get anyway. You can see the idea, and it almost falls out when you slide it. Anyway, that's just an update on what I'm currently doing, and I'm waiting for my laminations still from the engineering firm. They still haven't arrived. Obviously, I have to wind the bobbin first anyway, but I'm going to be doing that soon. It won't take long. I'll just basically take all my windings off the other bobbin and wind it onto here, and it won't take long at all. Because it's the same size and everything. And this bobbin's ready to make the mould. As you can see, it's nice and shiny. So it's nice and slippery, and so the silicone will be will come out nice as well. I've got a little bit of patterning on the inside of the, but I'm not worried about that. So anyway, I'm going to probably be using, to begin with, I'll probably be using something like 3 magnets per slot. I was going to use more, but I thought, well, that's a bit extravagant. I was thinking, I really don't need to use too many, really. Having 2 in the middle is good, because that compensates for the fact that it's narrower field. Instead of having a 20mm wide neodymium, well, it was 20mm circular wide. I'm now using a 20mm wide by 5mm. So it's actually a block magnet rather than a, because my original Concentrics, as you know, I was using these round ones for the original C6, but it was a lot of overspill. There was a lot of magnetic field overspilling, which wasn't really being switched properly because it wasn't going through an iron core. But the new design is going to be improved because more of the magnetic field from the magnets will be focused on the actual cores themselves. As you see, there's a 20mm run all the way through that length, and that run will be all the way through the cores, which will also be running in parallel through the Concentric. So you can get the idea. We're going to have a much more efficient switching as well, because I can get more in. There's going to be 12. There's 12 slots now instead of just 6. And I've also got a much smaller inside switching area, which is what I wanted, because I found out using the bigger. Oh, let's see. This was the bigger one. This was the C8, and a huge aperture there, and that was causing me a huge loss and a huge problem. Whereas the new one, I've got a tiny aperture. So just to give you an idea what I'm talking about, I've got my ruler. The aperture on this was about 47mm, as you can see. And the aperture on the new design, which will be much better, is, let's see, I can't get this on there right. It's hard to see this, 22, about 22mm. So that is going to be a huge improvement, because, as I say, when I went from the C6, which is this one, you can see the difference. The C8 fits over the top of the C6. The C6 was working quite well, but not as well as I wanted. And the aperture on this, on the C6, was actually 30. It's about 32 or something millimeters. But the new aperture is much smaller, which will be a great improvement. So, just an update on that. There was a delay in getting my cores. The engineer firm had some big orders, major orders coming in for some coach company or something. So I was set back a week because my little job that they're doing is kind of low priority. So I don't know what happened there. I've got a little fracture. I don't know what happened there, but there's nothing will affect it. Yeah, I must have caught. Oh, it must have been when I stuck the iron in, because I stuck the iron in to see if it would fit, and I must have chipped it. No big deal. I'll file it off if I need to do. Well, I've got to stick a ball bearing on the end as well. I'll need to get a tiny ball bearing in there like that. That's going to be super glued in. And then there'll be the C actuators. We'll also have one ball bearing over here, one ball bearing over there. Actually, it's the other side, because the rotors go around and there's a slight arc on them, so they're slightly offset slightly. So there'll be actuators on each side to actuate the outside cores as well as this inside core. Inside cores here. You get the idea. So I haven't actually got any more ball bearings handy right now. They're in my tray. So, but anyway, get the idea. I'll just I just use a magnet just to show you what I mean. But basically, there'll be a ball bearing here on the actuator. Oop! Oops! I shouldn't have gone near that other magnet. I've done it again. Right, okay. This is funny. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'll give it well on my head.